The world can feel big and empty when you're adrift, without a home.
When people are runaways, they lose identity. They are more prone to be in more trouble.
Her mother had passed, and so that left her moving from place to place, trying to fend for herself.
Yearning for security, you might cling to someone who seems like a safe haven.
She was being taken care of. She was being in a position to be loved.
She believed that this was a guy who would look out for her, maybe better than she's been looked after before in the past.
But what at first might feel like a secure nest can soon turn into a terrifying cage.
He began to manipulate and control her, beating her, to make her feel insignificant.
He twisted her mind and twisted her behavior in order to feed his drug habit.
She was tied to this man. Anything he said, she did it.
Leaving you more lost than before, with nothing but destruction in your wake. December 14th, 2008, Forest Park, Georgia. It's late afternoon on this winter's day in the industrial outskirts of Atlanta. Despite the crime in the area, the Regal Park Apartments stand out as a nice, well-maintained complex. So it's a bit unusual when a 911 call comes in from a ground floor resident at 3:30 p.m.
When officers arrived at the apartment complex, they could see that there was a large amount of blood. It was very apparent that the wound was of a high-velocity weapon, and they observed a male whom was obviously deceased. This is most definitely a homicide scene. They cordoned the scene off, so no contamination can occur.
Crime scene technicians begin to work the scene and gather evidence.
There were key pieces of evidence there at the crime scene. There was a spent rifle casing, and there was also a cigarette butt.
That shell casing was a 7.62 cartridge. It is well known that the majority of 7.62 cartridges usually belong to weapons that are known as AK-47s.
Detectives check the victim for identification. He has no wallet, but they find a large amount of cash.
The excess cash that he had in his pocket. This was an armed robbery attempt that was aborted.
Investigators find another piece of evidence in his pocket that leads them to discovering the victim's identity.
We had no idea who this individual was. We had noticed a pair of General Motors Corporation keys hanging out of his pocket. And lo and behold, up in the parking lot was a green in color 1995 GMC pickup truck, which the key fit. Upon running that tag to the vehicle, it came back to an individual identified as Rometius Mendita Ruiz.
At 33 years old, J. Remedios Mendieta Ruiz was a hard-working family man who was trying to make a better future for his wife and 3 children.
Mr. Ruiz, he was a legal citizen here. He was working, trying to live the American dream. He had his wife in Mexico, and their kids. And so he was just looking to build a solid foundation over here in the United States to be able to support them.
He lived with his older brother, Victor, whom he was very close to. They shared a 3-bedroom home in a very quiet, single-family neighborhood.
He was a hard-working family man that wanted to help provide for his family. He was a landscaper. He worked honestly and hard, and there was no indication at all that the victim was involved in any type of activity which was nefarious or criminal in nature whatsoever.
Detectives begin to canvass the apartment complex immediately to find potential witnesses to the shooting.
The community came out from their apartments because they were curious of all the police activity. They had seen an individual in the area on foot. They stated that he was darker in complexion and that he was about 6 foot tall. They observed this individual just hanging outside, pacing back and forth, acting nervously, and that he was smoking cigarettes.
Detectives immediately make the connection to the cigarette butt found next to their victim's body.
The only way that the victim's vehicle could get into the complex was via the gate, and it was a secured gate that required a key code access. Detectives were able to actually make contact with several witnesses that observed the pickup truck come into the complex and observed whom was in the vehicle. There was a female in the truck with the victim. She was sitting in the passenger side of the truck. The female was a short in stature black female with long red and black braids, probably anywhere from the age of 18 to 23 years of age.
Detectives understand that either the victim or the suspicious female must have gotten the gate code from someone inside the complex, so someone there has a connection to this crime.
Another neighbor tells police that from her balcony, she saw the victim park his truck just below her. Then the woman got out and led the victim back to the breezeway. Shortly after that, the neighbor heard a gunshot.
We identified our victim. We knew that our victim was with a female who we did not know who she was at that point. And we also knew that we had a suspicious male that had been seen literally right in the area of this crime just prior to the shooting taking place.
There's no further leads from the neighbors, and none know the identity of the suspicious male or the suspicious female. So investigators shift their focus and take a closer look at their victim.
Detectives go to speak with Mr. Ruiz's family.
We were able to make next of kin notification with his brother, Victor, who was very helpful to us.
From Victor, detectives learn more about their victim's movements in the final hours leading up to his death.
Victor told us that his brother had a plan to go to an area in order to buy some traditional Mexican food and things of this nature. That shopping area was literally right down the street from Old Dixie Highway.
Detectives canvass the business district, taking note of security cameras in the area and request access to the footage.
We were able to confirm on video surveillance that the victim, in fact, had gone to this location.
Investigators spoke to shopkeepers in the area. One business owner told detectives that she saw Mr. Ruiz leave at 3:10 p.m., just 20 minutes before he was killed. But there aren't any other witnesses who saw Mr. Ruiz before he left the shop.
Investigators have hit a brick wall again. Homicide detectives decide to go back to the start and revisit the Regal Park apartments the next day.
We decided that we were going to reconvene and come back and start doing an even heavier canvass to try to get additional information.
Police are working hard to build trust within this community, but neighbors are very nervous, and they do know more, but they're afraid to say more because they don't want to become targets themselves. But Detective's second visit pays off.
Several days later, we received an anonymous tip from an individual who came forward and said, look, hey, I go up to the Exxon gas station frequently. I know the victim. And additionally, I know of a petite black female that kind of works the area. She's a prostitute. That may have something to do with this situation. He personally had observed this female in the presence of two black males. He actually overheard one of the males tell the female to get the Mexican, quote, get the Mexican and meet me in the cut.
The anonymous caller says the man who told the female suspect to get the Mexican fit the description of the male suspect. And the other man he recognized as a resident at the Regal Park's apartments, a man named Tony Daniel.
Detectives now have a solid lead on someone who actually knows the suspected shooter. But can they get him to betray friends and identify their likely killer? Police have found 33-year-old Mexican citizen J. Remedios Mendieta Ruiz brutally murdered in the Regal Park apartment complex in December of 2008. They've exhausted their leads until an anonymous witness calls with a crucial tip.
The anonymous witness tells police that he has noticed two people fitting the description of the suspects at a nearby gas station near his house, along with another man that he recognized from the building, a man named Tony Daniel.
The day after receiving the anonymous tip, detectives locate Daniel.
Detectives are able to interview him, and for a friend, Tony seemed very willing to give up everything he knew to the police. He identifies the man that was with him the night before at the gas station as Antonio Ham.
Antonio Ham was 22, living with his grandmother and sister in a ground floor unit at the Regal Park Apartments. He and his brother Raymond were there on and off, which is why residents might not have recognized Ham.
Ham was known to be a heavy drug user, often using marijuana daily and using it with other substances like ecstasy.
Once we started looking into the background of Mr. Ham, he did have a criminal history from the Fulton County system. We also had a history of him within Clayton County.
When detectives ask Tony if he knows anything else about the murder, he gives them another piece of crucial information.
He, in fact, received a phone call from Antonio Ham, and Antonio Ham had told him over the phone that, quote, "I shot the amigo in the face and I didn't mean to."
This is now a witness who is claiming that Antonio Ham has straight up confessed to this murder. This is huge. Police need to lock this down as much as they can.
We constructed what we call a photographic lineup in order to see if he could positively identify Mr. Ham. He, in fact, identified Mr. Ham as being the same individual at the Exxon gas station and whom he had seen with the unidentified female at this point.
Detectives asked Daniel if he could identify the female suspect as well, but he claims he doesn't know anything about her, not even a name. So detectives still have no clue as to this woman's identity.
On January 2nd, 2009, just over 2 weeks since the murder, police feel they have solidly identified Antonio Ham as Mr. Ruiz's killer.
We had enough information at that point to go before a magistrate judge of Clayton County and obtain a murder warrant against Mr. Antonio Ham.
But Antonio Ham seems to have vanished out of sight. Investigators question as many of Ham's family and associates as they can find.
At this point, law enforcement goes to Mr. Ham's grandmother's house, speaks to the grandmother, speaks to the sister, and also speaks to the sister's boyfriend.
Antonio's sister and her boyfriend are saying that they were not at the apartment the afternoon of the shooting. And they're stating that they have no idea whether Antonio was involved. But they tell detectives that he asked them for a ride later on that day.
The boyfriend tells police that hours after the shooting occurred, he dropped a woman and Ham at his house before crashing in his bedroom. They later left, and he doesn't know where they went.
2 weeks after the arrest warrant has been issued, police also tracked down Antonio's brother, Raymond.
Raymond Ham was cooperative, and he was attempting to help the police try to take his brother into custody to do the right thing.
Raymond makes it very clear that he and his brother are on very different paths. He says his brother Antonio Ham is into very dark stuff.
One of the biggest pieces of information that Raymond Ham gave the police was that Antonio had actually been seeing a female whom he described as being petite, also had black and red braids, and she went by the name of Bree. That was a major breaking point in this case for us to identify whom the female was.
Bree is 19-year-old Brittany O'Kelly from West Point, Georgia.
Brittany is a petite young woman, just 4'9". Her mother had passed away just 6 years earlier, and she had also lost some other close family members too. So she likely ended up in the system and then ran away.
She had been on her own for quite a while, bouncing from place to place, just trying to fend for herself and finding ways to make money. She ended up staying with a friend in Atlanta who knew Mr. Ham. And soon after, they began a romantic relationship.
She saw she was being taken care of. She was being in a position to be loved. Because as a runaway, it was a lot of feelings and emotions she may have had that contributed to her being open to being loved.
But Brittany's relationship with Antonio turned dark quickly.
Once he got comfortable in the relationship with Brittany, he began to manipulate and control her with the domestic violence of yelling, screaming, beating her to make her feel insignificant, to continue to control her in the ways that he would like.
Antonio Ham identified Brittany as a young, attractive woman that he could manipulate into prostitution for his own personal gain. He began to push her out on the street to sell sex for money.
Antonio Ham had been running basically tricks out of that Regal Park apartment complex. He'd had a scheme where he was attempting to lure Hispanic gentlemen in particular to isolated areas of that apartment complex where he suspected that they'd be carrying a lot of cash. He suspected they'd be easy targets.
Brittany was invested emotionally, physically. She was tied to this man. Anything he said, she did it.
From interviews with Tony Daniel and Raymond Hand, detectives learned that Brittany and Antonio have been together for 3 months. When he had Brittany lure Mr. Ruiz to the Regal Park apartments with an offer for sex for money with the true intent of robbing him.
Detectives are determined to locate Antonio Ham, but have no leads on his whereabouts. But news of another shooting will break the case wide open in the most shocking way imaginable.
Stockholm Syndrome is basically defined when a person is in a domestic violence relationship. They may be emotionally, verbally, physically abused. Typically, a person that's abused or hurt, they go the opposite way. But Stockholm Syndrome is like an obsession of the love piece. And even though it's excessive, they may look at it as the more abused, the more they care and they love them.
A warrant has been issued for Antonio Ham for the murder of J. Remedios Mendieta Ruiz in Forest Park, Georgia. But Ham and his girlfriend Brittany O'Kelly, who may have been involved in the killing, have seemingly vanished into thin air.
Based on the information that was learned at this point in the investigation, nobody knew, number one, where Antonio was at, and nobody knew where Bree was at.
At this point, detectives aren't sure if Brittany is a willing accomplice to this crime or a witness.
It's now January 8th, 2009, 9 a.m. Almost 2 months since the shooting when police in West Point, Georgia, get a call about another shooting.
Shots fired 147 Maple Street. Requesting backup.
They stated when they arrived on scene that she was clinging to life. She had been shot in the head.
She's bleeding profusely, and a closer look reveals that she's been shot through her arm and in the front of her head. But she's still lucid, and they learn it's Brittany O'Kelly.
She says there was a light-skinned, skinny black guy who came into the house, was attempting to take my cash or looking for cash, and he just shot me and he ran off into the woods. Within moments of police getting there, her health starts deteriorating rapidly.
Detectives begin to question a man on the scene who identifies himself as Brittany's boyfriend and gives the name Raymond Ham.
He made a statement that he had been staying in the location in West Point for about a week. And he made a statement that he believed it was a drug house because there was a lot of strange activity that occurred there. And that during this incident where Miss O'Kelly got shot, that it was a home invasion that had occurred and that he was attempting to defend her and defend the home.
When detectives look around, they see blood smears near the front door and in the bedroom. They notice that there's candle wax on the walls and on the ceiling. It looks to police like a candle was thrown at him, that this is domestic violence and not a home invasion.
When detectives searched the exterior of the property, about 45 feet back on the edge of the yard, they find a .380 caliber silver semi-automatic gun with one spent shell casing still jammed in it.
The West Point Police Department asked for him to come in and do a voluntary interview.
Then, an absolute bombshell turns the case on its head when police receive an unexpected phone call from someone close to Brittany O'Kelly.
A phone call came in from a female identified as Kendra Brown. Kendra Brown is the sister of Miss O'Kelly. Kendra Brown told the detectives that they did not have Raymond Ham in their custody, that they actually had Antonio Ham in their custody.
On February 8, 2009, Antonio Ham is formally arrested and charged with the first-degree murder of J. Remedios Mendieta Ruiz. Ham is also charged with aggravated assault and other relevant charges related to the shooting of Brittany O'Kelly.
For the police, the only witness to the murder of Mr. Ruiz is Brittany O'Kelly, and she's being wheeled into surgery at this very moment.
We were brought to the side by her doctor and provided information on how serious her injury was. We were told that she had a bullet lodged in the top of her brain, which had to be removed.
Brittany's life hangs in the balance, and with no other witnesses to the Regal Park murder, so does the detective's case. 2 months after the vicious killing of J. Remedios Mendieta Ruiz, police finally have his killer, Antonio Ham, in custody.
Ham had tried to evade police, but he shot his girlfriend, Brittany O'Kelly, and ended up detained by police. After Brittany was rushed to the hospital, he tried to fool police by using his brother's name. But with the help of Brittany's sister, authorities learned his actual identity.
Detectives needed to speak with Brittany, but she was in bad shape. Doctors are trying to remove the bullet from her brain, and they tell police that they don't think that Brittany will honestly survive this surgery.
After West Point police arrest Antonio Ham, he requests a lawyer. But shortly after, he changes his mind and says he wants to talk.
Antonio Ham then provided a whole totally separate, completely different explanation about what had happened.
He admits that there was no home invasion. He claimed the shooting was an accident and that he truly loves Brittany.
Ham insists that he tried calling for help for Brittany, but his phone battery was dead, and detectives aren't buying it.
She's shot in the face down there, we believe, deliberately, in a premeditated fashion, with the intent to silence her from our homicide up in Clayton County.
Police believe that the gun jammed and Ham couldn't finish the job. And because Brittany was still under his control and likely scared of him, he was able to manipulate her into telling the fake home invasion story when the police first arrived.
Police push Ham to come clean. They suggest if Brittany survives, she can be charged as an accessory to Mr. Ruiz's murder. So if he really loves her, he should tell the truth about whether or not she knew the truth about what he was going to do.
Brittany O'Kelly was involved, and she was, on paper at least, a conspirator. She was part of the team that robbed Mendieta Ruiz. She could be sentenced to life in prison. That's the gravity of this.
But Ham still insists he had nothing to do with the murder and isn't willing to do anything at all to help Brittany.
Hours later, doctors informed detectives that she miraculously survived the surgery. But in an effort to remove the bullet, surgeons have also taken some amount of brain tissue from her frontal lobe.
When the investigators finally speak with Brittany, they find a young woman who is severely damaged by the ordeal that she's been through. Her brain injury has affected her speech and her mental capacity.
It was like talking to a 5-year-old child. Very simple-minded, very small phrases.
With a debilitating injury, can Brittany remember what happened? And will she ever be able to tell her side of the story?
They don't know if she'll ever be able to talk about everything she's been through or what happened the night Mr. Ruiz was killed. She has spotty memories.
Piece by piece, Brittany is able to tell her story to detectives.
Miss O'Kelly confirmed that Antonio Ham had victimized her from the very beginning of their relationship. She stated that Antonio Ham had prostituted her and put her to work on the streets of Clayton County in order to feed his drug habit, in order to get him money.
We decided as number one, we're going to treat Brittany O'Kelly as a victim. We're not treating her as a fellow conspirator. But as a sensitive crimes prosecutor, I don't like to treat human trafficking victims as a co-defendant, and I certainly don't like to treat my human trafficking victims who've been shot in the face as co-defendants.
Miss O'Kelly was in deep fear for her life because of what Antonio Ham had put her through during their relationship. She did not want to speak until she had 100% confidence that he was not getting out of jail. Anytime where we mentioned Antonio Ham, she would actually start to shriek in the bed and even cry at times. At multiple times during the interview, we had to stop and let her gather herself before we could continue.
She was always the victim, and she was operating with this, under a lens of fear. And it's only through that lens and through that eye of fear and through the trauma that she's experienced at the hands of Antonio Ham can you understand why she does what she does.
Brittany tells police that after the chaos of killing Mendieta Ruiz, Ham wanted to get out of town. And that's when the situation spiraled out of control. Brittany O'Kelly has survived surgery after being shot in the head by her boyfriend, Antonio Ham. Despite the trauma, she has provided detectives with vital information linking Ham to Mendieta Ruiz's murder.
Brittany has told police about how Mr. Ham had her coerce Mr. Ruiz back to the apartment complex and ultimately murdered him. She tells them Ham forced her to flee with him afterwards and begins to explain the events that led to her own shooting.
Brittany O'Kelly even said Raymond Ham was the driver down from Atlanta to West Point. Why is that important? That's a multi-hour drive in the car. He's trying to prevent her from speaking about the homicide that she witnessed. I mean, it's the most dramatic form of felony intimidation you can imagine.
It was far enough away from the Atlanta area that no one would have heard of the Regal Park apartment murders.
In West Point, the same patterns that Antonio had arranged in Clayton County continued. He pushed Brittany out into sex work to earn money that he spent for drugs for himself and for some basic amount of essentials and food for the two of them.
She stated that she had been attempting to flee Antonio Ham for some time. Ever since the incident occurred, she stated that she kept telling Mr. Ham that she wanted to go home, that she had nothing to do with the homicide itself, and that she was homesick. Antonio Ham refused to let her go home and basically held her captive.
Brittany tells detectives that on the day of the shooting, she was just trying to get out of the house so she wouldn't be hit that day. So she heads out to the front door to go for a walk.
When she gets to the front door, Ham pulls her arm and pulls her back.
Brittany O'Kelly is finally out from under Antonio Ham's spell and ready to divulge the full details about the murder of J. Remedios Mendieta Ruiz.
Brittany says on December 13, 2008, the night before the murder, she, Tony Daniel, and Mr. Ham saw Mr. Ruiz at the Exxon gas station. Antonio Ham pushed Brittany to proposition Mr. Ruiz. He wanted her to, quote, get that Mexican and meet me in the cut.
So Kelly stated that when the incident occurred in Clayton County on December the 14th, the gentleman that she picked up was a very nice man. She stated that she had conversation with him and that they both agreed to sexual acts for the exchange of money. She told him that he would have to go back with her to the apartment complex. She confirmed, in fact, that he did drive his pickup truck into the apartment complex. She stated that she went to the same place that she has taken other men to before, which is down the breezeway. All of a sudden, Antonio Ham came out of the shadows. The reason the victim was shot because the victim actually grabbed the gun.
At that point, Brittany says that Antonio Ham grabs her and drags her back to his grandmother's apartment, which is just a few doors away from the breezeway on the same ground level.
At this point, 911 is called and the police arrive within minutes. They begin their investigation and their search for the killer. But of course, the police have no idea that the people that they are looking for are sitting comfortably in the apartment, just feet away while they collect evidence and interview witnesses.
Brittany says that Antonio keeps her there at his grandmother's house for a number of hours while various people come and go. And one of those people is Tony Daniel, who takes the AK-47, the murder weapon, from Antonio to go and dispose of it. Eventually, when it gets dark, Antonio's sister, along with her boyfriend, help arrange a ride for them to get out of the apartments.
So now we know that Antonio's sister, her boyfriend, and Tony Daniel have all lied to police and worked to help Antonio Ham after the murder of Mr. Ruiz. Each one of them had covered up for Antonio before Brittany O'Kelly had told the truth about these events.
Investigators now have a complete understanding of the Ruiz shooting. But will Brittany be strong enough to face the man who brutalized her in court?
Now, everyone is hanging by the edge of their seats to see what Brittany will say.
After surviving brain surgery and serious cognitive impacts, Brittany O'Kelly gives police a first-hand witness account of J. Remedios Mendieta Ruiz's murder at the hands of Antonio Ham.
Brittany has shared her story with detectives and the prosecution, but she'll have to recount all of those details on the stand.
The injury to her head and her brain was so profound, we wondered how she was going to do, how she was going to withstand the stress of a cross-examination.
Prosecutors agreed to try Antonio Ham first for the murder of Mr. Ruiz. If Ham is convicted, he'll go away for life. That would be an equal or greater punishment that he would receive for shooting Brittany O'Kelly.
Antonio Ham's murder trial begins on October 3rd, 2011, and Brittany O'Kelly is the prosecution's star witness.
Everyone is hanging on their seats to see what is Brittany going to say, and if Brittany will have the courage to stand up to her abuser, the man that tried to kill her.
You have to have a victim who has reached that final point where she said, I've had enough, and I'm willing to get out of this abuse, and all that horror and all that trauma that I've been through must end, and it can't go on. And so it's rare that you find a victim like that who is so traumatized, who has been through so much, who equally has the courage and the willingness to follow through on it. You know, a lot of folks might feel that in their heart, but it's a much different story to have the willingness to come to court and withstand all the details of cross-examinations. Brittany
takes the stand, and guided by the prosecutor's questions, she repeats the details of the murder she shared with detectives.
As a prosecutor, you're trying to elicit not only the basic information, but you're also trying to read how well your witness is presenting to the jury. I've got a gal who's in her early to mid-20s who's presented as a 5-year-old. So it was really a challenging direct examination, but she did great. And she very confidently described and pointed out, most importantly, Antonio Ham as the one who connected all of these pieces of all these multiple different crime scenes.
On the stand, Brittany explains that her awful ordeal continued after she and Antonio left the Regal Park apartments.
At this point, Antonio Ham's brother, Raymond, came by to pick them up.
What she describes as being held for a number of days with other guys who were coming in and out who, you know, vaguely knew that she didn't want to be there. And they would occasionally feed her a meal or give her something to drink, but it was clear in her mind that she was not free to leave, and she was not able to leave.
From there, Raymond Ham drove Antonio and Brittany down to West Point. in order for them to hide out. So Raymond was not exactly forthcoming when he was originally questioned by the police.
Raymond lied his ass off the entire time. Raymond was a complete serial liar. Raymond knows exactly where Brittany is and where she's being held, and knows Antonio has a handgun. We charged him as a party to a crime there of that kidnapping.
Antonio Ham refused to let her go home and basically held her captive the entire time leading up to her actual shooting.
Brittany explains that Antonio constantly yelled at her that she couldn't leave, and tells the court that he shot her to keep her from doing what she was doing right now, testifying against him and telling the truth.
The defense argued in cross-examination that Brittany used prostitution to get Mr. Ruiz to the apartment complex to be robbed. And they presented witnesses to suggest that she was not at any point held against her will by Antonio Ham.
That defense was certainly attempting to destroy her credibility, and I was so proud of her for being able to withstand that and to get through that.
Brittany takes this moment as an empowerment to be able to talk about the things that she experienced, all the trauma, the things she didn't want to do. She got her control back by being able to get on that stand and tell her story, testifying for all the women who possibly have been in her shoes.
The word internal fortitude and how true that is, right? In these victims' minds when they finally have the courage to go forward and to confront evil, to confront, the most egregious sort of violent acts in their lives or in the lives of our community. It's really remarkable to watch, and I've seen it time and time again where victims find themselves in that final moment where they say, somebody's got to stand up here, and I'm finally willing to do it. And Brittany O'Kelly was no exception. She stood up and she showed great bravery and great courage.
On October 11th, 2011, Antonio Ham is found guilty of malice murder, 2 counts of felony murder, aggravated assault, aggravated battery, and firearm possession. He is sentenced to life in prison, plus a consecutive 5-year term for firearm possession.
You would never expect Brittany O'Kelly, with all of her background and all of her prior trauma and all of the brokenness that she, has had to suffer through the course of her short lifetime, to be the one to have the courage in the final analysis to take a dude like Antonio Ham off the streets. And that's who Brittany O'Kelly was. I hope that she can feel proud of that action and that courage.
While Brittany found her voice, it was too late for J. Remedios Mendieta Ruiz, whose dreams and future were stolen forever.
Brittany is definitely a victim, and what she did in order to help take Antonio Ham down is nothing short but of remarkable, considering all that she went through. But we mustn't forget about the other victim, who is no longer here. He was a man that devoted his life to working hard in order to support his family. But his life and promise are gone forever.
Brittany actually tells authorities that she is so sorry about what happened to Mr. Ruiz. She's thinking about his family and wants to tell them how sorry she is. Detectives realize that Brittany is the only person in Antonio's world who has a kind thought about what really happened to the victim, Mr. Ruiz.
Antonio Ham targeted vulnerable young women like Brittany O'Kelly to use and abuse. And Brittany O'Kelly, after all she'd been through, chose to stand up for what she knew was right.
Brittany O'Kelly quietly could act as a source of inspiration for us who are finding themselves in this situation. Tragically, her inspiration came from horrible abuse of getting shot in the face. She knew that this guy, he's going to continue to do terrible things unless somebody finally spoke up.
Antonio Ham was right to be afraid of what Brittany O'Kelly could do, because this tiny 4'9" tall woman that he had beaten and abused and shot point blank in her face and tried to kill, she was the only one who didn't lie for him. Brittany was the only one strong enough to stand up to Antonio Ham.
Everyone wants to find their place in the world. When you're vulnerable and lost, it's easy to fall for the allure of love and attention. But when the love demands that you lose your self-worth, dignity, safety, and freedom. Run before that cage door closes. But if we're lucky, we may find a soulmate who fills our days with joy and affection.
Being in love is like being on drugs. There's this feeling of I want more and more and more.
But falling in love can also be a wild ride. And if you take a wrong turn, you could wind up lost.
So many young girls get tied in with certain dudes that aren't good for them, and they just keep going.
She is just so blinded by the fact that she would do anything for her man.
It gets to the point where, they have to make a decision in their life.
When push comes to shove, who will you choose? Yourself or your man?
She's putting her trust in him. She's pouring her heart out to him.
Some men are able to see that someone is missing something and take advantage.
She had a lot of opportunities not to go down that road and never stopped.
No amount of being in love is worth your life.
March 24th, 2016, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. A city once known as the heart of America's steel industry, Pittsburgh has reinvented itself for the 21st century.
Pittsburgh was on the decline for a really long time, but it's come back to life.
It's a great city. It's a city made up of a bunch of different neighborhoods, so it's a bunch of little cities in one.
But not every corner of the Steel City has kept pace with its revitalization efforts.
Pittsburgh is a very diverse city where there are areas that are extremely beautiful and safe and quiet, and then there are some neighborhoods that are extremely dangerous and violent.
One of Pittsburgh's seedier areas is a neighborhood known as Beltshoover, located on the shores of the Monongahela River.
Beltshoover is a pretty violent area, and there's a lot of drug activity, street gangs.
So when a flurry of 911 calls come in that afternoon, reporting gunshots in the Beltshoover area, Pittsburgh police are ready for anything.
And when the patrol officers arrived, they met with a witness on scene who essentially pointed them in the direction of the shots fired.
This particular location, it was a wooded area. It was relatively secluded.
As police make their way inside the brush, they come upon an unsettling scene.
They found a young man lying face down in a pool of blood.
The man doesn't respond when officers call out to him. And it quickly becomes clear why.
He's been shot more than a dozen times.
He was shot in the torso and in the face.
There was a lot of blood. Medics came to render first aid, but it was obviously too late. He was deceased.
At first glance, there's no indication of who the dead man is.
He didn't have ID, he didn't have a cell phone. So initially, we didn't have much to go on.
But police get a hit when they run the victim's fingerprints through their database.
He's identified as 21-year-old Savion Scott Ponder.
To those that knew him, Savion Scott Ponder was hardworking, kind, and creative.
He was a college student at Indiana University of Pennsylvania. It's a local school outside the Pittsburgh area.
There, Savion pursued his lifelong dream of becoming a fashion designer.
We had a clothing company.
He was always into clothes, into design, and that's what he wanted to do with his life.
He had a bright future ahead of him. He was in college. He was trying to make ends meet. He was doing the hustle, but he was also doing the studying.
And in November of 2015, Savion got some life-changing news. He was about to become a father.
He had a girlfriend. They were a pretty new thing. This wasn't something they had planned, but he really stepped up to the plate. He got an apartment with his girlfriend and another good friend. He was going to school. He was trying to build a life for himself and for his family.
But now, Savion has been found brutally shot to death in a wooded area on the seedy south side of Pittsburgh. And as investigators search the crime scene for clues, they keep coming up empty-handed.
There was little evidence to go on.
We recovered 7 casings. But other than that, there wasn't a ton of physical evidence to help us.
The crime scene wasn't extraordinarily elaborate, but what's very interesting was the fact that he didn't have shoes on.
It's a small detail that strikes the detectives as potentially significant.
There was no real reason why the shoes were off. There's nothing that showed that there were any gunshot wounds by his legs or his feet to that extent. Possibly there were a pair of expensive shoes that were taken.
We thought robbery was a possibility. People like shoes, it's kind of a commodity.
Had Savion been killed in a robbery gone wrong? Or is there another explanation for his violent death? Investigators hope that their eyewitness holds the answer.
Well, we started with the original 911 caller, who was a resident of the area. They saw the vehicle drive down, which was very strange, because it's not a very high-trafficked area.
Even more strange, this witness then says that she saw 2 men dragging another man into the woods.
A few moments later, she heard a barrage of gunshots coming from the woods. She told police it sounded like someone emptied their gun.
It's not a firing range. There's no reason to hear 1 gunshot, let alone multiple, 10 plus.
Once the shooting stopped, the witness says only 2 of the men emerged from the woods and fled in a gray car.
So you have basically someone driving a car to a desolate location, 3 individuals, 1 being led into a field, and then only 2 coming back. It's pretty clear at this point this isn't a robbery.
It sounds more like a cold-blooded murder.
If you're just there to steal someone's shoes, you're not going to shoot them a dozen more times.
This was just straight execution.
Then the question becomes, why was Savion the target of such an execution?
March 24th, 2016. After responding to a string of urgent 911 calls, Pittsburgh police have found 21-year-old college student Savion Scott Ponder shot to death in a wooded area on the south side of town.
The responding officer saw a large amount of blood, and the victim had no shoes on. It appeared to the officers that he had been shot multiple times.
At first, investigators thought they could be dealing with a robbery. But now, an eyewitness account has led them to consider another possibility.
It sounds like an execution-style murder.
There wasn't anything to indicate at that time that it had anything to do with a robbery.
Along with the witness's account, the sheer violence of the crime points to a more personal motive.
To shoot someone over a dozen times, you have to have a real vendetta against him.
It showed that the person was either very angry or wanted to make sure that the victim was dead, or to send some sort of message.
My partners and I worked through the evening to work the angle from the initial witness saying that they saw 2 black males in a gray car flee. So we kind of try to work backwards, the things we do know, which is the victim's identity.
We tried to speak with family or friends or get any idea of who he was, where he was, why he would be there.
His mom said he was staying at 5 Boggs Avenue, which is in very close distance, within 1.5 miles or so of the murder scene. So our next move was to go to that area.
At the apartment, police are met by Savion's devastated girlfriend and their roommate. The couple's roommate tells police he last saw Savion the day before, and he'd noticed Savion was acting strange.
His roommate tells officers that Savion was a small-time drug dealer that sold a little bit, here and there to help cover the rent.
He also mentions that earlier in the day, Savion had left to go sell some Xanax to a woman. He never told his roommate the name of the woman, but one thing that his roommate did note was that when Savion got home, He had a bunch of cash on him.
Savion seemed happy with the deal he'd struck. But later that afternoon, there was a knock at the door.
According to the roommate, Savion answered the door and went outside.
Savion's roommate said that he went to the window to take a peek at what was going on.
He said he saw Savion climb into the passenger seat of a Ford Focus with 2 men in the back seat and a woman behind the wheel.
And that's the last time the witnesses see Savion.
Savion's roommate didn't recognize any of the individuals in the car. Yet his information is still vital for the investigation.
So now, armed with that, we have a pretty good idea that this is a murder, probably based on a drug deal gone bad.
The description of the car matched the one the witness saw at the crime scene. So police were pretty sure that these individuals were Savion's killers.
But who are the 3 suspects? Detectives immediately get to work trying to find out.
We do a canvas for surveillance video. It's very common. We do it all the time.
Right off the bat, we get this video from one of the businesses right on that main street on Boggs.
As the tape rolls, detectives bear witness to a chilling scene.
We were able to obtain video that shows the victim actually bail out of a moving car.
And then 2 black males exit the vehicle on each side and chase him.
He runs up the back of the building. It's a pretty steep hill, and you can really see the fear in the victim, and you can see that he's running for his life.
It was a pretty intense, let's say, foot chase. At which point, a 3rd suspect stayed in the vehicle and drove around almost in an attempt to either cut him off or an attempt to gain an advantage on catching him on the other side of this steep hill.
He eventually runs around this building, and then in the rear of the building, the surveillance doesn't actually show where they can capture him, but it does show shortly thereafter, they're walking him down, holding him by the arms.
And you can see he's out of breath, that he really wanted to get away. He realized that this situation could end badly.
It's a harrowing scene that's difficult for even the most seasoned investigators to watch.
We obviously know that Savion was murdered, and so what we're looking at is the last few moments of his life.
The video also provides a key piece of evidence.
The video is very clear and very close, and you're able to see everyone's face.
The footage provided a description of all 3 suspects, but even more importantly, it gave them the license plate of the Ford Focus.
We got the license plate off her car, and that's how we identified her. Erica Harris.
The name doesn't ring any bells for homicide detectives.
We didn't know her prior to this day. I didn't have any interaction with her, nor did any of my partners or colleagues that I'm aware of.
Looking into Erica's background, she doesn't seem like a hardened criminal.
On the contrary, 24-year-old Erica Harris appears to be a happy, well-adjusted young woman on the path to success.
Growing up, Erica lived a very soft life, as some people would say. Her and her father had a really great relationship. She was referred to as Daddy's little angel by so many people that knew them.
We found out she had a steady job. She seemed like she was organized and fairly intelligent. She seemed to care about her family and her friends.
She was going to go to school, and she seemed like someone that had her own thing going on.
But behind closed doors, Erica was still suffering from the tragedy of losing her father just a couple years earlier.
Sadly, when her father died, that changed everything for Erica. Her whole life, just felt shattered, and things really got out of control.
Typically, we associate our fathers with security and safety and protection. So those are some of the really important things that would be missing if suddenly her father is no longer around. Who's there to make her feel secure and to make her feel unconditionally loved.
Erica tried to soldier on, but life wasn't the same without the person who mattered most to her.
Trauma impacts us in every way that you can think about. Physically, emotionally, relationally, mentally. Some people may hide inward, but others will externalize their trauma. So they might run for the bad boys or engage in more risque behaviors.
Erica longed to find someone to fill the hole in her heart. And she finally did when she met 21-year-old Mitchell Coles.
When they met, it was like an instant connection. Like, you were the person I've always been looking for.
She thought he was going to be the one that was going to provide, the one that was going to get her life back on track.
You could tell that she did have a lot invested in their relationship and that they cared about each other and they were very intimate and just very close.
But there was a side of Mitchell that gave Erica pause.
Unfortunately, Mitchell was a drug dealer, and Erica wasn't a fan of that at all. But what could she do? She loved him, and the sense of security and safety that provided was beyond anything she ever imagined.
She saw him as a loving man, someone that she could build a future with. And they had a connection. And there was a bond there outside of the drug dealing. There were so many other things that came with his life that was rewarding for her.
But now, detectives are wondering, did Mitchell Coles drag Erica into his life of crime?
Mitchell, he had a fairly violent criminal history. He was involved in shootings, firearms violations, stuff like that.
And when investigators roll back the tape of Savion's abduction, they find their answer.
We look at the surveillance video of the individuals chasing Savion Ponder, and one of the individuals appears to be Mitchell Coles.
You could see it as clear as day that it was him.
March 2016. After discovering surveillance video of 21-year-old Savion Scott Ponder's abduction, Pittsburgh police have identified Erica Harris as one of 3 suspects in Savion's murder.
You could look at it and say, oh, it's very clear that that's her vehicle being so distinct and being right on video. There's a nail in the coffin.
Police believe that Erica's boyfriend, Mitchell Coles, is one of the other individuals caught on tape.
Well, we had evidence from the video surveillance that he intentionally ran after him, caught up to him, and forcibly dragged him back to the vehicle.
Now, detectives are ready to take their suspects into custody.
2 detectives in our office took a ride up through the north side to an area where they knew Mitchell Coles to be living at and observed the gray Ford out front.
So they call for backup, and some other officers and detectives arrive, including myself.
They found both suspects inside, and they surrendered without incident.
At this point, both Erica and Mitchell are taken to the police department and then transferred over for interrogation.
The detectives decide to start with Erica.
Once we brought Erica back to interview her, she sat in the room. She was very cold. She almost pretended like this wasn't that big of a deal, and she seemed to be oddly calm.
The best way I can describe it, when someone comes in, you offer them water or a drink or Pepsi or a cigarette. But when you interview innocent people, they generally are very frightened and don't really want anything.
We actually offered Erica an ice cream sandwich, and she took it, which we found to be very strange.
And I remember me and Detective Kale were like, man, nobody's taken the ice cream sandwich before.
We're talking about a murder, and she's eating an ice cream sandwich.
While Erica's behavior raises red flags, she refrains from admitting any wrongdoing.
Erica remains composed the entire time, and she disavows any knowledge of Savion's abduction and later murder. She tells detectives she has nothing to say.
That's when investigators offer to cut her a deal.
It's called Queen for a Day, and it means that you can come in, say all your involvement, implicate as many people as you can in exchange for a reduced sentence.
It's basically a get-out-of-jail-free card, but Erica wasn't biting.
She wouldn't answer any questions. She was just not helpful.
Eventually, she lawyered up, and then she was arrested and charged and taken to the county jail.
With Erica refusing to talk, detectives turn their attention to her boyfriend, Mitchell Coles.
But just like Erica, Mitchell Coles says he doesn't know what's going on.
He started with, I wasn't there, I don't know who this is. And then once she's presented with the evidence that we had, he realized that if he says something that maybe he could talk his way out of it.
Detectives pull out the footage and show Mitchell chasing Savion down when Savion gets out the car. So at this point, they're expecting a confession. Instead, Mitchell says that they were racing.
While Mitchell never admits to being involved in Savion's murder, his absurd claim about racing does give the investigators more ammunition to use against him.
He puts himself on the scene. He's not denying it's him. He also said Erica had nothing to do with it. All she did was drive. So, of course, he implicates her as being part of what occurred.
It was huge because whenever you can corroborate any evidence, I mean, we had the video surveillance of her vehicle, we had her in the driver's seat, and we had Mitchell putting her there, putting her basically at the crime the whole time.
But there's another huge piece of this puzzle that's still missing.
We knew there was a third actor involved.
Who was the man that was in the car with Mitchell and Eric?
Detectives are about to find out. From the last place they could have imagined.
We received information that was really important to us.
Erica had a change of heart.
She's now willing to cooperate and give them everything.
In March of 2016, Pittsburgh police have arrested 2 individuals in the shooting murder of Savion Scott Ponder, Erica Harris, and Mitchell Coles.
We had a massive amount of evidence we were able to compile against them.
Erica was in love, and so she was willing to do anything. She put a lot of her feelings and even common sense aside to be by her man.
Detectives believe another, unidentified man helped the couple commit their crime. But so far, Erica and Mitchell have refused to give up his name.
There was a lack of willing to play ball.
Without their cooperation, police had no way of identifying who the man in the surveillance video was.
It was kind of fruitless at that point.
But then, the investigators received surprising news from the county jail.
Once she was in jail, Erica found out she was pregnant.
Mitchell, the co-defendant, is the dad.
The realization that she's carrying a child forces Erica to reevaluate her situation.
Finding out that you're pregnant changes a lot for you, because now you're no longer thinking about you, you're thinking about your child.
That is pivotal on what her next moves are going to be, because she is now about to become a parent.
Although Erica was previously willing to stand by Mitchell till the end, she now signals to the investigators that she's ready to cut a deal.
The idea of being pregnant while in jail has got to be terrifying, right? And I imagine that gave her a new perspective on life. And that must have been that shift. Like, let me now say something. If it'll save me and my baby in any way.
So she comes in with her attorney. We have the district attorney. And she agrees to give the statement with a number of stipulations.
First and foremost, Erica is required to tell police everything she knows about the murder of Savion Scott Ponder.
Also, she had to give up her consent to having her phone forensically downloaded for the content.
But for Erica, the most troubling condition of all comes last.
Part of the deal was for reduced charges, that she was going to not have further communications with Mr. Coles while he was in jail.
For someone like Erica, not being able to talk to someone you see as the love of your life, that might have been a worse sentence than prison.
Keep in mind, she's pregnant. If you thought they were close before the incident, this is now a bond that's way beyond anything they felt before.
With no other options on the table, Erica reluctantly agrees to the deal. And before long, she's sitting down with investigators to tell them exactly what happened on the night of Savion's death.
According to Erica, this all started when she agreed to run an errand for her boyfriend. She would do anything Mitchell asked her. This time she agreed to go pick up some drugs from Savion.
She loved them and she wants to prove her love to him. So she ran the errand.
It just so happened instead of getting a gallon of milk, she was going to buy weed.
Erica tells the detectives that Mitchell gave her $800 in cash, along with Savion's address.
So basically, she was simply supposed to pick up these drugs from Savion in and out.
She believes she's buying marijuana that can then be resold. At which point, once the transaction occurs, Ponder gives her Xanax instead of marijuana. Erica attempts to say she doesn't want the Xanax, she wants marijuana, at which point Ponder tells her, you get what you get, you're out.
She gave him this money, and she didn't get her drugs. So trouble was afoot.
She calls Mitchell and says, hey, our guy just burned me for $800.
Erica says that call started a chain of events she never saw coming.
Mitchell was furious, and he was determined to get his money back by any means necessary.
I don't know what was going through her mind at that point, but I can't imagine that she thought that anything good was going to happen to Ponder by getting Mitchell Coles involved.
Before confronting Savion, Mitchell decided to recruit some extra muscle.
Erica says this is the person that was in the car with them, the person who was on the surveillance video. And she tells the police his name is Johnny Raines.
Mitchell and him had a long relationship. They were associates. They had been shot together. So they've been involved in this criminal life together.
Erica tells the detectives she was worried about what the two men were going to do to Savion, but not worried enough to back out of the plan.
She is just so blinded by the fact that she would do anything for her man. This is the man that stepped in when her father was gone. This is the man that she was in love with.
So, Erica agreed to drive Mitchell and Johnny to Savion's apartment.
They told Savion to get them their money or else.
At that point, it doesn't go so well. Mr. Ponder had subsequently used that $800, threw in another $100 of his own, and bought $900 worth of Xanax pills. At that point, he didn't have the marijuana to give them for the money.
Mitchell and Johnny forced Savion into the passenger seat of Erica's car.
And they drive around for him to try to either get the marijuana or get the money back from the Xanax.
Savion knows he's in trouble, and he tries to remedy the situation. Initially, he tries to sell the Xanax back to the person he bought it from. They're like, forget it. You did this deal. We're not giving you your money back.
When that became apparent to Mr. Cole and Mr. Raines that they weren't getting their money back, that's when things started to escalate.
That is when Savion flees the vehicle and runs until they capture him. So that amps up the energy in the situation. They are angry.
After Savion's escape attempt, Erica says Mitchell was done messing around.
Once they get back in that car, the mood is different.
The situation just escalated and kept escalating and escalating.
Mitchell tells Erica that they need to go to Beltuver.
One way or another, Savion was going to pay.
The next thing you know, she's hearing gunshots.
April 2016. A month after Savion Scott Ponder was found shot to death, Erica Harris has agreed to tell the Pittsburgh police everything she knows about the homicide.
Erica and Mitchell, what they were trying to do was recoup the money that they had believed they had been burnt. The victim had not given them the marijuana that they believed they were supposed to purchase.
Erica has told investigators that, despite her misgivings, she agreed to go along with her boyfriend's plan to make Savion pay.
When emotions are high, logic is low.
Erica really was someone who prioritized Mitchell. She loved him, and she was very much invested in protecting him.
Any hesitation Erica had was drowned out by her desire to do anything to help her man.
So, when Mitchell ordered her to drive to a secluded area in South Pittsburgh, Erica did as she was told.
Erica's fear level was rising, not knowing what would happen next and not knowing what Mitchell would do.
She was thinking, maybe he's going to beat him up. But you also have to think in your mind, I don't know how far this could go.
Erica says she waited in the car while Mitchell and his friend Johnny Raines led Savion into the woods.
They hook him up under the arms and they escort him. Essentially, they're walking him to his death.
Savion had to be terrified out of his mind.
Any doubts Erica had about what her boyfriend was going to do to Savion were quickly dispelled.
She heard gunshots coming from the woods.
Not long after that, Mitchell and Johnny walked back from the woods, and they were carrying Savion's shoes, but Savion was not with them.
On the drive home, Erica says neither of the men said a word.
She said it was quiet. They didn't really talk about it. They didn't know what to say.
But which of the two men pulled the trigger? Investigators hope that Johnny Raines may provide the answer.
We were able to get a warrant for Johnny Raines as the third accomplice, and the next day we went out and got him.
Detectives questioned Johnny about what happened after he and Mitchell walked into the woods with Savion. But despite undergoing hours of rigorous interrogation, Johnny remains tight-lipped.
He didn't make a statement either, and to date he's never made a statement about his guilt or his participation.
That's a big problem for this investigation, because it's tough to convict somebody of murder if you don't actually know who the shooter is.
With Johnny refusing to talk, the investigators decide to take another swing at Mitchell Coles.
Once Mitchell heard Erica was talking, he told detectives he wanted a plea deal of his own.
Part of Mitchell's plea bargain was that he gave up all the information, that he took us step-by-step through the case.
So Mitchell came in and gave us a second interview, which he detailed how Savion was murdered.
Mitchell's story picks up where Erica's left off, as he and Johnny Raines walked Savion into the woods in Beltshoover.
They got him out, walked him in. I want to say it was about 30 to 50 feet, maybe. I would assume they were trying to just get as secluded as they could.
Mitchell rationalizes it by telling us that you got to do what you got to do. There's bills that need paid. You're not ripping me off.
I think Savion knew what was about to happen. He knows they're armed. They're agitated because he ran. He has to know that he's either going to get beaten severely or killed.
According to Mitchell, Savion's terror was plain to see.
He's talking, and Mitchell flat out asks him, said, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I'm praying."
He's praying that they're not going to hurt him because he had full intentions of trying to make it right. He was trying to do anything he could that they wouldn't harm him.
But Mitchell and Johnny had no intentions of letting Savion go.
That's when Johnny Raines takes Ponder's shoes off of him.
They remove his shoes in an attempt for him not to attempt to escape again.
And then Savion says to them, like, "What are you going to do now? Are you going to pistol whip me? Are you going to beat my ass?"
That's when Mitchell's like, "Well, we have to do something here. It's the end of the road."
By the spring of 2016, Pittsburgh police have arrested 3 suspects for the murder of Savion Scott Ponder, Erica Harris, Mitchell Coles, and Johnny Raines.
Investigators have all 3 perps in custody.
Now, after learning that his girlfriend is cooperating with the investigators, Mitchell Coles has agreed to provide a statement of his own. He admits that he and his friend, Johnny Raines, forced Savion into the woods.
That's when Mitchell's like, when we have to do something here. It's the end of the road. And then Mitchell produces that gun, and it's all over for him. He says, I take the gun out and I shoot him.
But according to Mitchell, he wasn't the only one who shot Savion.
During the second interview with Mitchell Coles, he indicates that he shot Savion multiple times and handed the gun to Johnny.
He gave the gun to Johnny Raines, who then emptied the clip onto Savion.
And that was incredibly chilling during that interview of Mr. Coles. It was stone cold killer at that point.
Mitchell's statement clears up any remaining doubt about what happened to Savion.
We knew there was one gun used, but we didn't really know how that sequence went down until Mitchell comes in and tells us.
I can't get into their head to why they did that. I would just have to assume or to think that Mitchell wanted Johnny to be as culpable in the homicide as he was. So if he fired into the victim as well, it would also make him part of the murder.
We do believe Mitchell because it did fit what happened. It fit the details of the case. The way the scene was and the sound of like emptying the gun from the witnesses, his story did fit.
Following his confession, Mitchell Coles pleads guilty to conspiracy, kidnapping, and third-degree murder.
In the state of Pennsylvania, there's 3 degrees of homicide. There's first-degree murder, and that's the one we all think about when you think of a premeditated murder. Second-degree murder is when someone is murdered in the commission of a felony. Third-degree murder would be any other sort of murder where your actions, you intended to kill that person.
Mitchell's statement also seals the fate of Johnny Raines.
That same month, Johnny Raines pleads guilty as well.
I think once he realized that, Erica gave us a statement and then Mitchell gave us a statement, I think the writing was on the wall.
Both men are sentenced to serve up to 50 years in prison. But the last of the 3 defendants, Erica Harris, is anticipating a far milder punishment.
Ultimately, she was charged with the kidnapping.
The reason why Erica is not facing a murder charge is because of the fact that she agreed with prosecutors to not have any contact with her boyfriend, Mitchell Coles, during the entire investigation.
However, as her sentencing date draws near, investigators learn that Erica hasn't been keeping up her end of the bargain.
We realized that she'd still been talking to Mitchell on the phone.
We monitored jail communications, phone calls. So we know they're communicating and they still had a relationship. They were still saying, I love you, still communicating against the agreement.
Erica's kidnapping charges are now upgraded to include the same third-degree murder charges as Mitchell and Johnny.
And so the judge changed the sentencing based on her actions. When she broke the rule or the stipulations that the judge gave her, the good deal that we were going to give you, you can't get anymore.
The gravity of Erica's mistake doesn't fully sink in until she goes before a judge in August of 2017.
I remember when Erica Harris was sentenced, it seemed like she was almost shocked. We were in the courtroom and the judge handed her down a sentence of 20 to 45 years. Once all the circumstances and the facts of the case came out, the judge realized that even though she didn't pull the trigger, she had just as much culpability in this homicide as the other 2 did.
Savion's family is relieved to learn that none of their loved one's killers are going to get off easy.
When we spoke to them when the sentencing was happening, nothing we do, no sentence we're going to give them is going to make them whole again. They lost their son, their boyfriend, their best friend, their loved one. We're never going to fix that. But I think some closure comes in the fact that we got substantial sentences on everybody involved, including the driver, Ms. Harris.
As for Erica Harris, she'll have decades behind bars to reflect on where she went wrong.
There were so many opportunities along the way for her to have pulled that
heart away.
When she met him, she fell head over heels in love.
But promises of a bright future can be blinding like the sun.
Two of them had handguns, one had a shotgun.
I was begging for our life. Oh my God.
This is not the type of incident that happens every day.
She was a bright and beautiful 18-year-old with big dreams.
She always wanted to work at NASA. She was very smart in school.
She was the joy and the light of the family.
But on a cold winter night, that light is suddenly extinguished.
She was lying on the bed, covered in blood.
Was it an intentional act or was it an accident?
Can you tell us what happened?
They don't understand who could have done this to her.
The police only have one suspect.
People were saying, this is a bad person.
Yeah, they were like yelling at each other. For a detective, that's a huge red flag.
But does the suspect have a motive?
This is your fault. There's so many things that are unsaid and unseen in relationships.
I don't care anymore, whatever.
They didn't know anything about him.
Every time!
One day, it just explodes.
Can the investigators pick up the pieces and put together a case against her killer?
I legit was scared. He was acting insane.
Juries are extremely unpredictable. A lot of people don't get.
January 16th, 2022. It's early Sunday in Indianapolis, Indiana, the Hoosier State's capital and largest city.
Indianapolis is a great place for you to raise your family.
There's tons of things to do, so it attracts a lot of people.
But the vibrant city shuts down on a bitter winter night.
It gets cold down there for sure.
It's quiet. The streets are typically empty.
At around 1:30 that morning, the wintertime quiet is about to be broken by the wail of sirens.
911 dispatch got 2 phone calls back to back.
Hello?
Where's the location of your emergency?
I don't know. I don't know.
The caller abruptly hangs up. But soon another call comes in from the same phone.
911, where's the location of your emergency?
911 gets a second call, and this one is even more desperate. This is coming from a woman caller.
I need help.
Where are you?
Then that call abruptly ends as well.
However, the dispatcher is able to pinpoint where the calls originated.
GPS data from the cell phone show that the call was made from an apartment complex on the southeast side of Indianapolis.
It's ringing from East Hannah Avenue. He was crying and screaming before he hung up. Okay. I'm gonna send it out.
Police quickly arrive at the apartment complex and begin searching for the 911 callers.
They didn't know exactly which apartment it was. They happened to notice that there was a door open.
They walk inside the door and they see blood in the living room area. They go further into the apartment and they find a woman.
Ma'am, are you okay?
She's lying on the bed, covered with a blanket.
When they pulled back the blanket that she was covered in, there was a gunshot wound to the arm and to her torso.
I've got a gunshot wound in the EMT.
Police and paramedics attempt to stabilize the young woman, but she's lost a lot of blood.
Can you tell us what happened?
I can't.
Who did this?
She really couldn't tell police too much. All she could say was her name, DATELINE.
In some ways, 18-year-old DATELINE Johnson was a typical teenager.
She always had a big smile on her face. She just enjoyed life.
She was very social. She always had a lot of friends.
She was just the life of the party. Wherever we was at, she would just bring the energy.
She was going to make her presence be known for sure.
Everyone loved her, and everyone enjoyed her presence.
But DATELINE was far from typical.
Most kids would be outside in the summertime playing. She'd be in the house reading books.
School was a breeze for her. She was very intelligent.
She made straight A's all 12 years in school. She was very gifted.
Eventually, DATELINE focused that intelligence on a specific goal.
She wanted to be a mathematician and a physicist.
She always wanted to work for NASA.
After graduating from high school in 2021, DATELINE moved into her own apartment.
She really loved her freedom. She loved her privacy and really just wanted to start that journey on her own and begin college soon.
The gifted student also caught the attention of the opposite sex.
Growing up, she was more of a tomboy. Then as she got older, she loved her long nails and lashes.
DATELINE's a very beautiful girl. The dudes gravitated towards her.
But she really wasn't interested in a serious relationship because she didn't want anything to interfere with her independence, her education, or her career goals.
But that changed when she met 20-year-old Anthony York.
She met him from her friends.
DATELINE and Anthony actually met the spring of 2021, and he was immediately smitten.
The attraction was mutual.
He didn't really talk too much, but he was cool.
I'm glad you finally had the nerve to tell me how you feel.
You're so beautiful, it's intimidating.
I definitely saw them liking each other, for sure.
That attraction was there from the beginning. And from there, they just built a relationship and really kicked it off.
With everything going her way, DATELINE felt like she was on top of the world.
I've got a gunshot wound in the EMT.
But now, her future hangs in the balance as paramedics struggle to keep her alive.
She has 2 gunshot wounds to her body.
She was losing a lot of blood, and the paramedics could see that the situation was critical.
Can you tell us what happened?
The officers ask over and over.
Who did this?
But there's no answer.
They knew that they had to try to get her to the hospital as soon as possible. DATELINE is pretty much going in and out of the door.
Then she lost consciousness.
She can't tell them anything else.
18-year-old DATELINE Johnson was enjoying the most exciting time of her life, becoming an adult with an apartment of her own.
DATELINE was an independent young lady, able to get her first apartment at 18.
I was proud of her when she got her place.
She also had an exciting new relationship.
Friends had introduced her to 20-year-old Anthony York, and they had been dating ever since.
But now DATELINE's life is hanging by a thread.
DATELINE was found lying on the bed, bleeding from 2 gunshot wounds.
DATELINE was still alive, but she was unconscious.
As DATELINE is transported to the hospital, detectives arrive at the scene to begin their investigation.
One of the first things that the detectives noticed is that there was forced entry into the apartment. The door had been kicked in.
The apartment appears to be in a bit of a disarray, as if there was a struggle. It also appears to be blood in the living room.
And a clue to the weapon used by the shooter.
Yeah, we got a shell casing.
Because the shell casing and the blood were in the living room, the detectives determined that the shooting had taken place there.
What's not clear to detectives is how DATELINE ended up in the bedroom.
They couldn't determine whether she had crawled into the bedroom or somebody had helped her because she was wrapped in a blanket.
In the bathroom, they find a bloody towel.
A bloody towel indicates that someone did try to stop the bleed.
But was it DATELINE or the mysterious man who made the first 911 call?
They don't know who this male was that placed this 911 call. They don't know whether it was a boyfriend, whether it was a neighbor. They don't know who this individual is.
Was it the shooter? Was it someone who just heard the gunshots and came in?
If it was the shooter, why did he call 911? And if it wasn't the shooter, why did he flee the scene?
Did he run away in a panic? Did he run after the shooter? Did he have anything to do with this? They didn't know.
In addition to the evidence found at the scene, detectives also take note of what they don't find.
Detectives never found her keys. They never found her cell phone.
Could have been a robbery gone wrong. Yeah, he didn't mean a shooter.
After going through the apartment, detectives talk to the manager of the complex.
They start asking that property manager, does she have a car? If she does have a car, where's it usually parked?
The property manager was able to confirm that she does have a vehicle.
She always parks in the same space.
Do you know where that is?
Right over there.
But the space is empty.
That car isn't here anymore.
Shooter probably took it. Do you have surveillance on the complex?
Yes, we do.
There are security cameras directly pointed in the direction of her apartment. So the property manager goes and gets all of that footage and then hands it over to police.
While the manager was retrieving the video and handing it over to police, detectives put out a be on the lookout alert for DATELINE's car.
I need a bolo on Datora Johnson's vehicle.
Then they expand their search for clues to the area outside her apartment, including a nearby dumpster.
They couldn't see much in the dumpster, just some garbage bags, nothing out of the ordinary.
But then something catches their eye. A duffel bag.
They said it was on top of everything in the dumpster.
Clearly, this duffel bag had just been dumped.
So detectives investigate further.
Inside the duffel bag, detectives found some men's clothing.
They also find ammunition, and that ammunition looks similar to the spent casing they found in DATELINE's apartment.
Detectives take the bag as evidence and begin to canvass the residents of the apartment complex.
So police start interviewing some neighbors, and they start to talk to two women who live near DATELINE's apartment.
There were two young women that remember hearing DATELINE and a male arguing.
Yeah, they were like yelling at each other.
When was that?
It was around 1:30.
Those two women say that they heard arguing right before two gunshots go off.
Do you know who she was arguing with?
We don't really know her like that. We weren't all up in her business or anything.
But they say the voice did sound familiar.
They've heard that same voice coming from that apartment before.
It sounded like the same man's voice that she would always get into arguments with.
It was probably her boyfriend.
Neighbors of 18-year-old DATELINE Johnson have just told detectives that they heard loud voices coming from her apartment moments before DATELINE was shot.
Those neighbors say that DeTerra and a gentleman was arguing, and after that they heard two bangs.
And this isn't the first argument they've heard in her apartment.
Yeah, they were like yelling at each other.
One particular neighbor told the detective that she used to hear a bunch of arguing and fighting, but the police was never called.
Was that the same voice you heard tonight?
It sounded the same.
And that was her boyfriend?
I think so.
The neighbors didn't know the boyfriend's name, so the next move for detectives was to reach out to DeTerra's family for more information.
But before they can conduct interviews with the family,
homicide.
A call from the hospital changes the nature of the investigation.
DeTerra is rushed to the hospital. She undergoes surgery. Doctors do everything they can possibly do to save her life. But it's too late. She doesn't survive.
DeTerra's family is also contacted and break down at the news.
When I heard the news, I went into shock.
My husband just barely could speak, and he was like, "She gone."
When detectives arrive at her parents' home, they find a family struggling with their grief.
I was asleep. My twin brother, he had ran in my room. He was like, "She gone." I hear a lot of commotion in the front room.
My dad, he was in the living room, and police is in there. He was just crying nonstop.
But DeTerra's parents are determined to see justice done.
Is it possible we could ask you a few questions to find out who did this?
Yeah, of course. Whatever we can do to help.
The first thing they tell detectives is that they can't imagine anyone wanting to hurt DeTerra.
She's loved by everybody.
Is it possible that she might be involved in something that is dangerous? Maybe something she didn't tell you about.
No, we were very close. Detectives want to know, was DeTerra involved in anything, gang activity, drugs?
Due to the forced entry, this possibly could be a drug deal gone bad, or even some kind of gang retaliation.
But DeTerra's family is adamant that she wasn't mixed up in anything like that.
Is anyone that she had problems with, disagreements with?
Her boyfriend, Anthony York.
They knew that they fought a lot, but she didn't seem scared. It was just more she was annoyed when they fought.
She would just be like, we argue, or we got in an argument. It's just like how you vent to your sister.
When they got in arguments, did it ever turn physical?
Honestly, we don't know.
DeTerra didn't mention Anthony a lot.
The family had only encountered Anthony a handful of times.
It was kind of strange. We never knew who he was, what he was about.
I knew a lot of people surrounded by him. Like, I grew up with his mom and his dad. And I met him one time, but didn't personally know him.
And while the impression he made wasn't alarming, it wasn't reassuring either.
The first time we met him, the interaction was kind of weird. He didn't introduce himself. He didn't say that I'm DeTerra's boyfriend.
He was just standoffish. He really wouldn't look at us too much.
Hoping to learn more, detectives return to the station and file requests for her social media and phone records.
Social media is such a huge aid in helping an investigation. These days, everybody posts everything on their social media.
While waiting for a response to the requests, detectives review the security camera video from DeTerra's apartment complex.
They get an opportunity to look at the surveillance video, and that surveillance video tells a lot.
Yeah, that looks like her car. Here we go.
They can tell that it's a young black man and he's carrying a duffel bag.
He goes and he dumps the duffel bag in the dumpster.
You see him go back inside the apartment, then come out and get inside the car and pull away.
That's gotta be the shooter. That could be anybody.
With the darkness, the poor quality of the video, and the fact that the man had on heavy clothes because it was winter, it was almost impossible to identify him.
Could it be Anthony York? There may be an easy way to find out.
Detectives retrieved the duffel bag that had been collected as evidence from the dumpster.
They go through the duffel bag again.
And under closer examination, detectives find something.
The detectives found a bond warrant.
This is huge for the investigation. This is the break they needed.
There it is. Anthony York.
After finding a bail bond warrant bearing the name of Datera Johnson's boyfriend, Anthony York, detectives are now convinced he's the person responsible for her death.
Here we go.
Video from a security camera showed only one person entering and leaving Datera's apartment, and only Anthony would have a motive to dispose of a duffel bag full of his clothes.
But is Anthony York capable of murder?
Datera's family didn't know much about him, so detectives started digging into his background.
And what they find is alarming.
Auto theft, resisting arrest, and criminal recklessness. And not one, but 2 outstanding warrants.
This is a guy that is basically running from the law.
Armed with these outstanding warrants, detectives rush to the address on file for Anthony York.
A man answers the door. He identifies himself as Anthony's brother, Dominic.
He tells the detectives that Anthony isn't there.
Do you know where I can find him?
I don't know. I don't keep track of him.
Dominic states that he didn't have any idea of where he was or when he would return.
Do you know what this is about?
I heard about that girl that got killed. I know he'd been dating her.
Do you know where Anthony was last night?
Nah, man. I don't know anything about it.
Detectives asked Dominic to get in touch with them if he heard from Anthony, but they didn't really have any confidence that he would.
When they return to the station, the detectives start reviewing the social media accounts they've been given access to. But Datera's online presence is more complex than anticipated.
Datera had a social media account that basically anyone could see, but she also had a separate account that was only for her close friends. On that account, she would post things about problems in her relationship, like fighting and Anthony's jealousy.
It was kind of like little petty stuff that would turn bigger because of the person he was.
She started coming out and saying they had a toxic relationship. Like they'd be arguing and fighting a lot.
She specifically talked about how she had been on and off in her relationship with Anthony York.
Hey, come over here.
And as detectives dig deeper, they find things that are very disturbing.
Datera had actually sent this audio clip to a friend stating that Anthony had threatened her with a gun.
I told him to leave because we just couldn't stop fighting and I needed a minute. And that's like when he pulled out a gun and said that he wasn't going anywhere. It was crazy. He calmed down after that, but I legit was like scared for a second. He was acting insane.
And that isn't even the most alarming thing detectives find.
Look at the dates on the posts. That's weird.
Someone after the shooting had been posting on her social media.
One post said, "I'm in heaven now," and another one promoting a fundraiser to raise money for funeral costs.
Datera's family is shocked when detectives check to see if they've been posting on Datera's accounts.
They didn't know anything about this.
Concluding that Anthony is likely behind the posts, detectives' next move is to review the data submitted by DATELINE's cell phone provider.
The detectives could see that there were 2 calls made to 911, but there were also phone calls made to another number before those 2 calls were made to 911.
The number belongs to Anthony York's mother.
Within an 8-minute time period, someone had called Anthony's mother several times.
None of the calls were answered.
Detectives wondered if Anthony had panicked after shooting DATERA and then tried to call his mother before he fled the scene.
Before they can put a trace on the phone, detectives get word that DATERA's car has been found.
I was actively on social media posting her car because I'm like, whoever killed her has her car.
Soon afterwards, someone contacted DATERA's mother, and sure enough, detectives go and they find DATERA's car parked about 5 miles away from her apartment.
When detectives search the car, they find a driver's license. But it's not DATERA's.
The name on the driver's license was Dominic York. Somehow, the driver's license of Anthony's brother had ended up in DATERA's car.
Now the detectives don't know who committed this crime.
Did Anthony call his brother for help when he couldn't reach his mother?
Oh, call him. Get him down to the station. Well, that's not gonna happen.
Dominic is already in custody.
They find out that he's actually in jail for unrelated charges.
But for the detectives, it's an opportunity.
Can you believe it?
They say, you know what? Why don't we start to just listen to some of his phone calls that he's making from the jail?
It doesn't take long for the strategy to pay off.
One call in particular was interesting.
Dominic called a woman named Felicia Hurley.
Detectives run a background check on this Felicia Hurley and learn that she actually resides in Phoenix, Arizona.
So why is Dominic calling her?
That's weird. What do you mean?
In the phone call, Dominic is giving Felicia some advice.
It was obvious that he knew that their conversation was not private.
He was talking in code.
Tell him to lay low. It's hot.
Detectives realized he was sending a message to Anthony.
Listening to jailhouse phone calls between Dominic York and a woman named Felicia Hurley, detectives in Indianapolis believe they have a lead on Dominic's brother, Anthony, the main suspect in the murder of 18-year-old DATERA Johnson.
We thought he was still in the city, that people were just hiding him out. I had no idea he made it all the way to Phoenix.
Detectives then contacted law enforcement in Phoenix, Arizona for them to work together and see if they could locate Anthony.
3 weeks after the murder, investigators fly from Indianapolis to Phoenix.
They have to find Anthony and they have to find Felicia. So they get to Phoenix and they actually pull Felicia over during a traffic stop. So now they have her in custody and they can start asking some questions.
You know Anthony York?
I do, yeah. She's friends with Anthony through Dominic, and Anthony had actually been staying with her.
But she insists she initially didn't know he was on the run from the law.
She's alleging that she didn't know anything about any outstanding crime, any warrants.
She says that Anthony came to Phoenix to get out of Indianapolis because a big winter storm was coming.
Did he ever tell you why he was really here?
No, but I got a little curious after talking with Dominic, and he told me to tell Anthony to lay low.
So, Felicia went to a court records website.
She found that he had 2 outstanding warrants.
But that's not all.
It's when she saw social media that she knew, wait a minute, this guy's on the run for murder.
What did you do when you found out?
I didn't do anything.
She was too afraid to say anything to Anthony.
She didn't want Anthony to do anything to her.
Did he threaten you?
No, he didn't have to.
Felicia says she just doesn't feel safe with Anthony around.
Let's go.
The detectives pass the information on to local law enforcement, who immediately head to Felicia's apartment.
Police! Freeze!
And on the patio, there's Anthony York.
Hands up. Turn around. Put your hands on the back of your head.
He is arrested without incident.
On February 10th, the investigators sit down with Anthony in a Phoenix interview room.
You know why you were picked up?
I got a couple of old warrants.
And a new one for murder.
Anthony says he's not surprised.
Anthony admits that he was in DATELINE's apartment the night of the shooting, but he says he has nothing to do with it.
You want to tell us what happened? I'm gonna tell you, but man, I still can't even believe it myself.
According to Anthony, it was a bad night from the start.
Anthony said that he and DATELINE were broken up, that they had decided to go their separate ways.
What was the problem?
A lot of things, man.
Anthony says they've been arguing a lot.
He was pretty convinced that she was seeing another man.
He did not know who that other person was.
Why'd you go over there if you had broken up?
I went over to get my stuff.
He was only there to retrieve some of his items from that apartment.
He did admit to the fact that they had had an argument.
This is your fault, not mine. You're the one always messing around.
I don't care anymore, whatever.
Anthony says he just wanted to get his things.
He stepped outside to go and throw something in the dumpster, some things that he had in her apartment that he no longer needed.
That's when it happened, man.
What happened?
He stated that when he went to the dumpster that someone went into her apartment.
He said he didn't know who it was.
He says an unknown man walked into DATELINE's apartment and shot her.
Anthony York has just told Indianapolis detectives that his girlfriend, 18-year-old DATELINE Johnson, was killed by a mysterious man who slipped into her apartment.
It was a crazy night.
Anthony told police that him and DATELINE were breaking up and that he had gone over to her apartment to get some things that he had left there.
He admits they argued while he was there, but says it wasn't anything serious.
Anthony tells police this was just a breakup. It wasn't the biggest deal, but he went to go grab some of his clothes and put it in his duffel bag.
I decided I didn't need them, so I just threw them in the dumpster.
You threw away a duffel bag?
Yeah, I ain't need it.
He says that while he was out by the dumpster, he heard 2 gunshots.
He says that he heard the shots, turned around, and saw a man running out of DATELINE's apartment.
Did you recognize him?
No.
What did he look like?
I don't know.
He says, I don't know, he was wearing a mask.
Alarmed, Anthony rushed back into the apartment.
What happened? What happened?
He went back into that apartment and seen that his girlfriend was shot.
He says he called 911, but he didn't know DATELINE's address. So he was trying to figure it out so he can tell dispatch. And that's when DATELINE got the phone and asked for help.
But detectives know that 911 wasn't the only number he'd called using her phone.
Phone calls were made to Anthony's mom.
Why did you call your mother before you called 911?
Man, I didn't know what to do.
He said he called his mom because he was in a panic and he didn't know what else to do. And so he called 911 and then he took off.
Why did you leave?
Because I knew y'all would sit here and try to pin this on me.
Why did you take her phone? Tara's phone.
I just picked it up. I don't know. It was a crazy situation.
He said when he realized he had her phone, he threw the phone out of the window. He said he didn't know where.
The detectives have heard enough.
At that point, they let him know that they have video surveillance and there is no one else that could have been there.
You want to explain that?
I'm done. Give me a lawyer.
Cuff him.
Let's get him out of here.
Get up.
They booked him on murder charges and they extradited him back to Indiana.
After his charge, it made me feel more at peace of the situation. He got what came to him.
With Anthony in custody, police and prosecutors assemble the case that they'll take to trial.
There's a lot of circumstantial evidence in this case.
And the evidence proved that Anthony was lying about what happened.
Nobody was on the videotape in the apartments besides him, so that story was bogus.
For trial, the DA's office put together their own story, one they believed they could prove was true.
DeTara was a young woman. She's living on her own for the first time. She doesn't really know how to get out of this relationship with this guy.
On January 16th, the tension in the relationship boiled over.
The prosecutors suspect that Anthony got upset over something. DeTara had posted on her social media accusing him of cheating.
You don't put my name out there.
If you're afraid of getting called out, don't do what you did.
Prosecutors believe that DeTara and Anthony got into this big blowout argument.
At some point, DeTara locked Anthony out of the apartment.
Get out.
Let me in. Open the door.
But a locked door couldn't stop Anthony.
Anthony forced his way back inside the apartment.
You don't shut me out.
Stay away from me. Anthony.
Whether he meant to shoot her or not, they still don't know. And they actually do believe that at first he tried to help her.
You're okay, you're okay?
There was some panic in him.
Anthony called his mother first because he really did not want to call 911.
But when he couldn't get his mother, he made the call.
He did call 911, and he hung up with them quickly.
Then he started getting rid of evidence that he'd been there.
He decided to grab that duffel bag, dispose of any evidence that may have shown that he was in that apartment.
While he was doing that, DeTara managed to pick up her phone.
DeTara was able to make that phone call to 911, and then he came back. He took that phone, he got her keys, and he fled the scene.
Looking ahead to the trial, the prosecutor is confident, and Anthony York isn't.
Anthony knew that if this case went to trial, chances are that he would be convicted of murder. So he takes a plea deal, and he pleads guilty to voluntary manslaughter.
Prosecutors know that it's better to offer a plea deal and know that the person is going to receive some time than take your chances with a jury.
Anthony is sentenced to 30 years in prison with an option for his sentence to be modified after he served 17 years.
To DeTara's friends, the sentence isn't nearly enough.
It makes my skin crawl, honestly. You took someone's life, someone who you were supposed to love.
And it means DeTara's family will never know the full truth.
We didn't get any explanation on what happened because he signed a plea deal. So we didn't go to trial and he didn't explain.
And they will never forget what they lost on that cold winter night.
DeTerra, I'm still thinking about you every day.
She had a beautiful soul. She loved everybody. She was beautiful, a beautiful person.
She was definitely a sweetheart, but she was a big sister at heart. She never let nobody play with us. I always respect that.
I miss my daughter. I wish that these young people will go seek help. Don't put your family in the situation that we're in, because we'll never be the same.